Okay, wonderful. So our first reader this evening is none other than Darla Himeles, right? I'll tell you guys a funny story. When I first met Darla, right? I started talking to her in Spanish. I was like, "Where are you from?" And she's like, "I don't speak Spanish." Like, wait, Himeles? That's you're not Latina, right? She was like, "No, actually, maybe. You never know, right?" I started cracking up. But yeah, so I figured I would share that. Darla is the author of the chapbook Flesh Enough, which we have published, our first books, and also the full-length collection Cleave, which we are also so proud to have published. And this cover gets me every single time. It's such a beautiful cover. And I will now read Darla's awesome bio. Just bear with me while I get to this stuff. So Darla Himeles is the author of the chapbook Flesh Enough, which we have in print and as an ebook available on our online store. And the full-length poetry collection Cleave, a Pushcart-Prize and Best-of-the-Net nominee. Darla can be read in recent issues of Talking River, Atticus Review, Storyscape, New Ohio Review, and Naugatuck River Review. She was a poetry editor at Platform Review recently, right? Darla will also be hosting the So Fresh reading series, which is coming up soon. You'll hear more about that. She recently earned her PhD in American Literature at Temple University, so it is Dr. Darla to you, where she currently works as Assistant Director of the Writing Center. Darla has also studied at Santa Monica College, Bryn Mawr College, which has an incredible group of alumni, and of course, Drew University, where she received her MFA in poetry and poetry in translation. She lives in Philadelphia with her wife, daughter, and 2 orange cats. Everyone, please welcome Darla Dr. Mama Cat Himeles. So ask to unmute.
There we go.
And spotlight for everyone. Yes.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm so thrilled to be part of SMOL Fair, and it's always an honor and pleasure to read with Get Fresh Books. My bio is a little outdated, and I'm going to start with a quick anecdote and then dive into the poems. And that's that there's a lot of coverage in the media right now about trans and non-binary kids, and my kid is one of them. And they were born and were assigned a gender that wasn't appropriate for them and given a name by their well-meaning moms that wasn't the right name for them. And when they told us this, we told them what the 4 names were that were our top 4 when we were still expecting them. And then read them like 100 names from the internet, all these lists of like non-binary, gender neutral, inclusive names. And they chose one of our top 4, which is the name Max. And that just made me so happy because that name made the list because of our late friend and my former mentor, Maxine Cuban. So in honor of these 2 Maxes that I love, I'm gonna actually start with a poem by Maxine Cuban and then dive into my work. So this poem is called Women and Horses. It has an epigraph. After Auschwitz, to write a poem is barbaric. Theodore Adorno. After Auschwitz, after 10 of my father's kin, the ones who stayed, starved, then were gassed in the camps. After Vietnam, after Korea, Kuwait, Somalia, Haiti, Afghanistan. After the towers, this late in the life of our haplessly orbiting world, let us celebrate whatever scraps the muse, that naked child, can pluck from the still smoldering dumps. If there's a liar around, strike it. A body, stand back, give it air. Let us have sparrows laying their eggs in bluebird boxes. Let us have bluebirds insouciantly nesting elsewhere. Lend us navel-bared teens, eyebrow and nose-ringed prodigies, crumbling breakfast bagels over dog-eared and jelly-smeared texts. Allow the able-bodied among us to have steamy sex. Let there be fat old ladies in flowery tent dresses at bridge tables, howling babies in dirty diapers and babies serenely at rest. War and détente will go on, détente and renewed tearings asunder. We can never break free from the dark and degrading past. Let us see life again, nevertheless, in the words of Isaac Babel, as a meadow over which women and horses wander. So among a lot of the rhetoric right now, when the queer community is targeted, it's always Black trans women first. We are all connected in the queer community and outside of it. And I just want to do my part to always remind us of that fact. And a lot of the don't say gay stuff has me just wanting to read all my gayest poems. So I'm gonna go into section 2 of Cleave. It means so much to publish with a press that really truly celebrates queer poets, poets of color, poets on the margins in various ways. And with gratitude for that, I'm going to start with a poem called God Dildo. I put you in when I want to. I grip you like a stick shift. I control my breathing. I plunge you in and rip you out like laundry in a bucket. You hide in the closet. You smell sweet like me. You pretend you love me, but I could never love you, oh phallus, oh needy, oh moody one. Tongueless, mindless, heartless, you're wholly plastic, wholly function. Do I praise that you don't abandon me, non-biodegradable imposter of a dick? I praise my lover inside me, rocking my hips with her nibbles and licks. Prayer for a Marriage, after Steve Scafidi. When we are old, hunched and softened by time's loose fingers, may hunger throb its sore muscle a random Tuesday afternoon and keep us from dinner plans with friends. May day darken around our graze and grab happy hands, whose secret knowledge blushes us even then. May the rhinoceros in your pelvis bruise mine into sunset, and our penguin fingers fly slick underwater. And may we kiss in the open street, 3 hours late, before swaying our wearied bodies to eat. This poem is called Kiss Me. Kiss me on the sidewalk, why don't you? Kiss me at the market, or at least at the car. Kiss me at the golf course, and oh, for the summer people, kiss me good and hard. Kiss me at the chapel, kiss me chewing apple, kiss me on pride's biggest float. Kiss me for the children, kiss me when I never listen, kiss me when I beg and when I don't. Kiss me on my father's boat, kiss me on the front lawn, kiss me on the bus from Bangor to Boston, kiss me on Cadillac Mountain, kiss me at the downtown fountain, kiss me on the rim of Topanga. Kiss me on the throat and kiss me on the cheek and kiss me on the lips while I speak. Kiss me with a wild tongue, kiss me like a virgin, kiss me like I'm dying in your arms. Kiss me for the born-agains, kiss me while they mourn our sin, but you'd better never fail to kiss me out of fear or scorn. Cousin. You will never rip apart the challah, warm and wrapped in Malaysian linen, while my wife holds the other end in our home. When we met, your back locked. Between your vertebrae are traditions I have craved, secretly kissing mezuzahs and doorways and stumbling through the Shema alone. Our pots and pans are spoiled, cousin, with sins I don't believe in. And when I bleed, I touch everything. Dawn after Maine votes yes on question 1, repealing same-sex marriage. Bangor Daily News folded, eyewitness, moonset over the cove, orb giving itself to horizon. No sunlight warms the throat into a hum as moon falls. No courthouse, no protest, no candles, just moonset over the cove. Moon keeps on shifting each day on the line, staring differently into the light. Still your hand, thank you. Another drawn blind Saturday when the slits of my light-sensitive eyes blur. Zebras and dry grass become hair across your face. Somewhere a hand whispers to my leg to stay still. Here I slip in and out of sleep. Sticky lips, barely shut, whistle lightly. As a wrecking ball splits the walls, the bed, forcing our bodies beneath our house, smashing us with soil-infused concrete chunks. And still your hand upon my leg, the light making hair of grass, your lips lifting sweat as if we are safe. So I'm going to read a couple old poems and then a couple new poems. This is one of the first love poems I wrote to my wife, Betsy, and it's called Ode to Terrible Days. Give me the worst day here. 15 feet of packed snow on the stoop, only decaf coffee and dried beans for soup. Down power lines, indigestion, and rot growing a new hole in the roof. And I'll still praise it above the best day anywhere without you. My mom is here, so I'm going to read a poem I wrote for her 17 years ago. It's a sonnet, and it's called Mother Hands. You pulled my feather hair into a princess hairdo with metal snap clips and thick rubber bands. I grimaced and watched your hands, those same red-nailed fingers that led me through words, rubbed cream in my sores, held my hand in toy stores. I begged you to hide your smile from my class, ashamed of your glittering, unstoppable motherhood, the shrieking and leaping in the air for all I do. But no one was fooled. Your light shone through. I've pushed as daughters do. I've glared and cursed and feigned ingratitude. But I miss your mother hands, that loving pang as you pulled and twisted my young self into a princess hairdo. I've never actually read that. It was like a gift, I think, for my mom's birthday, but I thought, let's just read it. So the next book of poems that I'm working on is gathering gravity around how to live with a difficult brain. So a brain that deals with mental health, with, in my case, a chronic migraine condition. I'm going to read 3 poems from that, and then I'm going to turn it over to Grisel. I can't wait. So this first poem is called Slate Sky. Slate sky, flounced with fluster, you whisper, ant, nothing, dirt. But I am here on a weed-ringed anthill, living. I build and shoulder, tender-footed, mindful. I kiss wild rhubarb and dandelion greens with all of my feet. You howl my smallness, your power. I listen. I say, I am here, furious, shouldering. This next poem is really weird, so I'm going to say a few words about it. It's called Hoshana Remijapant, which is kind of hard to pronounce. Hoshana is the Hebrew pronunciation of the word that you might have heard as Hosanna. And in Christian context, the word often is interpreted to mean something like praise God or all hail God, but it actually means help, save me. And Remijapant is the name of a migraine medication that's relatively new that was approved almost a year ago for preventative use, and it changed a lot of people's lives, including my own. Hoshana Remijapant. May 27th, 2021, the Food and Drug Administration saying, yay, hark, the dawn, preventative use of Remijapant may forthwith be born. And Hoshana swept over Ora, melted anvils to manna, fed ferns unfiddling and unclenched palms. Eye of tender senses ran 8 miles in midday glare beside river shimmer, mud mucking ankles, face a goof with grin. And then lived among the drums, folded crepe at the fair, danced through the garden. Yea, even as the evening cameth, what unfamiliar word bright glad yawn of what next, and turn up the lights, and yes, I'd love to come. Oh, orally dissolving tabs of calcitonin, gene-related peptide receptor antagonist, Remijapant, Nurtec, beloved bread broken among the broken-brained ones. May your blessing upon us be bountiful as farm-sunned berries. May the wrath you have vanquished stay dead, oh dead. May no discovery disturb your newfound glory, radiant as halos crowning our reborn heads. I held out my 2 hands, no longer a tremor, in honeyed light, O light, Hoshana. Hoshana foiled packs, shallow wells of mercy, cradling wizardry of lab science and delight. Hoshana, mighty antagonism, unmangled from epigenetic scrolls, bound in weary mange and Hebrew melodies, whispered in bunkhouses that twisted like wires barbed like smoke-brimmed Shabbos hojanas, and accustomed am I to prayer in languages I half understand but trust, because the God I barely believe in decreed birth, not a diagnosis, but a thrust out into days dreamed of by ancestors. O wild anguish whose extinguishment costs $2,000 without insurance, costs $2,000 without insurance. To be unbroken is a privilege too hard won. But holy these fortnights before the brutal bill braces against redarkening, holy taste of unbroken shalom, grace, Hoshana. And my final poem was part of this awesome project called the Healing Verse Poetry Line, which is this poetry line that you can call, and every Monday there's a new poem that's meant to offer healing and hope. And it's sponsored by Philadelphia Contemporary. It was launched by the former poet laureate of Philly, Tripita Mason, and it's sustained by Mason, another former poet laureate, Yolanda Wisher, and Philadelphia Contemporary. And an earlier version of this poem appeared in January on the line. It's called Anxiety Prayer. Philadelphia's clouds this morning slip from cobra to child with outstretched arms, to pelican rising over sea, bodies extended across droplets of future rains. Meanwhile, hummingbirds hum inside my chest, where I rest my palm to assure myself and my hummingbirds that I am breathing. Here, beside this treetop window, breeze carries trills I cannot place, a drone I cannot place, while my palm reminds that some days my song is just breath, the cadence of which might be called kindness, might be named yes. Oh, these thrums between ribs pray for protection overzealously, like how my kid bandages my perfectly fine leg, so fast their hands barely brush my jeans, but they heal my mind somehow anyway, tired out as it is today by worry. The light within them a kind of holiness that tilts my chin up. Blue expanse, cloud shapes that shift with each breath. Today's reminders of yes, yes. Thank you so much. Mad love.
Mad love. Thank you, Darla. That was beautiful. And shout out to Max. Shout out to Max. As I was reading that, I was like, Max is so lucky to have parents that, that's like, God, that's like our next step of evolution, is to be able to just do this stuff and it not be such a big deal all the time, right? And, I would just like to take this moment to quote Kiese Lehman, who made this video about this don't say gay. He said, don't say gay as hell. Say gay is all outside. Say gay as fuck. Say gay all day. Say gay. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, don't just say gay. Say gay is beautiful, is fine, it's okay, it's us, it's normal, it's everything, right? So yeah, that was that was a dope little video he made. All right, thank you for such a beautiful reading, and thank you to everyone in the chat for your comments and support. It means a lot. It really means a lot. All right, moving right along, because I could just keep yammering on forever and ever if you let me. Grisel Acosta, Dr. Grisel Acosta. So we got a lot of doctors in the house tonight, so we're good, right? Dr. Grisel Acosta is an associate professor at the City University of New York, Bronx Community College, and the daughter of Colombian and Cuban immigrants. And she has the most amazing students, and she does just a killer job with them. Excuse me. Her first book of poetry, Things to Pack on the Way to Everywhere, is an Andrés Montoya Poetry Prize finalist and has been published by Get Fresh Books. Andrés Montoya, you suckers, you missed out. No shade, but I'm just glad that we were able to publish it. This book is awesome. I love it. As a matter of fact, just as a little tribute, I'm going to play just a little bit of Just a little bit of club. Hopefully you guys can hear that. Or let's see. This is a little tribute I'll play a little bit of that club, right, to the wonderful musical allusions here in the book. Okay. The recent work can be found in Best American Poetry, The Baffler, Split This Rock, Acentos Review, Kweli Journal, Latino Book Review. Shout out to Reina, Acentos Review, and shout out to all of the folks doing great work at Kweli. Red Fez, shout out to all of the folks there. Also, Gathering of the Tribes, In Full Color, Paterson Literary Review, and celebrating 20 years of Black girlhood, the Lauryn Hill Reader. She is a Geraldine Dodge Foundation poet, a Macondo Fellow, and the editor of Latina Outsiders, Remaking Latina Identity. Everyone, please give an amazingly warm welcome to Grisel. So let me just press some buttons and replace spotlight. Yes, there we go. I did it.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here. I want to thank SMOL Fair. This is very, very exciting, and I can't wait to see this grow and grow and grow. And thank you, Roberto, and thank you, Get Fresh. This is I'm always happy to do Get Fresh readings. Roberto is an amazing editor. So please, if you are a poet, please submit. It's an excellent press. My bio is a little old there. So just so you all know, I am a full professor now, and I'm also the creative writing editor at Chicana Latina Studies Journal. So I'm going to put these links in the chat, and I just want to let you all know that I'm also doing an eco poetry workshop at Murphy Writing at Stockton University, and there are only 5 seats left. So if you're interested, the link is in the chat. I'd love to see you there. So that said, I am going to read some new stuff, some old stuff, and again, so happy to be in community, and so happy to hear Darla's words before. I'm still kind of basking in some of the themes that she touched on, and I think I will probably choose a few poems based on that as well. So this is some new stuff. I recently told a friend or friends that at a poetry reading I was at, I was very envious of someone who I saw had incredible support from their family. And my family's great in many ways, but they didn't quite get that I was an artist as a kid. So this is called Good Families. I envy you, child, whose parents have faith like farmer believing in sun and rain, ritual, bean walking, the column of silo planning, saving combine harvest, like a couple saving pennies to bank on their offspring's dancing dreams. Daddy, I want to be a painter. Then you shall see the mountains and sea of Japan in winter. Mama, I'm a writer. Then tell me what I am a metaphor for. These are words never spoken en mi familia practical, sensible. La raíz de lo practical es action. Root of sensible is what's perceived by the senses, both tools of the artist, like the panga or the scythe, arcs of moonlight reaching crops and gathering them for our bellies. The makers of such metal belief in reap saw the future in soil and seed. How I ache to be seen the same way. Like the children of good families, mine saw me dangerous, drawings in charcoal equal to drought, verses in vernacular equal to killing weeds. Oh, they tried. When they saw somehow I still grew juicy mangoes, fierce dragon fruit, crickets that sang a call to all the Santa Marta wood stars overlooking my salty ocean, where I paddle out, wade alone, wishing. Okay, and the next one I'm going to read is definitely inspired by Darla's reading. So this is called A Kiss is a Portal. The cold nip of 8 p.m. spring swings when you concealed your locale, a bus ride soaked from the rain, holding hands with a messy-haired hip swear, sashaying to the south side in second skin mini and sunglasses, mixtape soundtrack fumble on basement, floor and shadow secret curtain, velvet rope on a chain, submissive, Molly bouncing on inflatables, lilting high in the champagne rafters, falling backwards on sand at dusk, scented coconut oil outlining your mouth, whispering, Santo, 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 holy explosions under eyelids, closed because you can see, hear, taste, smell, feel everything, with jellyfish nerve endings gathered around your love, lit like a submerged glow, hot birth of earth, ash, deep breath, breaking ocean, becoming solid, obsidian, carved as key to gate way into a shared cosmos. All right, and the next one is a fun one. I love sci-fi and dystopian stuff, and I have some poetry in a few sci-fi poetry anthologies. This is not in any anthology, but it's just me playing in that way. And it's all language is X. X X's the X. Every X when X blooms XYs, especially under triple X. We double X the XXXX, so XC, because how X is X, and oh, let's just X, like an X in the apex, boldest X, God of X, holy X, no, only XXX, like excitement of X, I bow to X on the X of my X and your X, sign X and be X, we exist, all triple X, so X, blessed, X, yes, eyes only see X, 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 X. Thank you for indulging me, my experiments. All right, the next one is going to take it back to my eco poetry stuff. I've been working on a collection that is looking at eco poetics overlapping with mental health and family. So this is called If I Were to Start Again. If I were to start again, it would be the same. A tiny pine circled by taller family members, calloused veiny wood sheltering vesper sparrows and mourning warblers, elders who sometimes succumb to carpenter ants, leaving only a pile of resin-scented dust. I would grow the same, eventually towering the evergreens, letting their needles feed my roots, so tangled with theirs I'd forget the lineage really defines one being, regardless of the individual rings that encircle our cores. I would reach the same conclusions. The same sun and rain allowed our existence. The same creatures found a friend in the voice of our wind-blown creeks. The same fires burned us down, and the same homes were created with the sanded bones we offered up as a table, an altar, a roof, a chair, a pencil. Right. And then this next one is it's about a fire that recently happened in Philly, and it's in the Moonstone Center Arts anthology based on AWP poets that are attending and submitted to the anthology. So this is what caused the fire. It's not just a matter of looking closer or pulling away to focus. Think of timing. When you hover near enough to smell the soaked cinders on the pavement, when you fly up in the air to see the establishing shot. The report said it was a tragedy. 12 dead, 8 were children. The alarms didn't work, though an inspection months earlier said they did. No one knows what caused the fire, but if you pull away from the trash piled on the street like pulpy mountains at the brown feet of survivors in blankets, become a bird hovering over the roofs, see the scorched beams peeking through the hole atop the Philadelphia row house, compare it to the neighboring flats. Buildings that all have rooftop salons, patio furniture, surrounded by lovely gates, twinkle lights twisting around dream outdoor settings of rehabbed and flipped properties. Then you remember the news, describing the hood as mostly gentrified. And the last one that I'm going to read is from my Get Fresh collection. You know, I have chronic health issues. And I had a bunch of surgeries a while back, but you know, the issues still come back every now and then in a variety of ways. So I just wanted to read about that. And this is called The Guts of a Corporation. When you have surgery, you must sign a form. Agree to let the overseeing medical organization dissect, reproduce, dilute your removed organs into anything imagined by science. You, of course, sign. Under bright lights, under sedation, under the knife, you dream of you as an ear on a hamster, you as fat-free potato chips, you as Wilhelmina Sotomayor in 2035, the first female WNBA star to meet a male NBA star in free throws. You as a baby who cannot grow beyond being a baby. You as a blonde, green-eyed man who joins an uber-Nazi organization in 2076, who celebrates 600 years of ignorance about his own cells, chanting nonsense in a suburban park. You as a lump of red and purple flesh, screeching ploomf, ploomf, ploomf all day, wheezing during lonely nights. You as a tiny 1 millimeter cybernetic supercomputer, massaging electrons into unknown sounds, making the next movement of music to unite the world in dance. You as biohazard garbage dumped into soil, becoming something woody, leafy, and tall, stretching into clouds, breathing under the same stars that 3,000 years ago saw you play when you were something brown, something female. You as virus explosion, hurting millions just by existing. You as vaccine, killing another version of yourself, because isn't that what growth is? When you wake up, only you, the original, exist, except for the place in your belly that has been hollowed out. Thank you for listening, folks.
I would just like to say that the crowd wants more. They don't want you to leave. So they want at least 2 or 3 more poems. I mean, uno más, I see. What the heck? Please, what's going on? They were like, last one. Oh, you muted yourself. I got you. Don't worry. Let me, how do I get you to unmute? Oh, shit. Wait. Okay, give me a second. I have to like do some, there we go. Unmute. Hey.
I was trying to stick to my time, folks. I'll read a short one. Let me find something. By the way, I do want to say to folks that the guts of a corporation was written years before the pandemic. So that whole thing at the end about the virus, it's like, whoa. So my poems in my book are so sad. I'm trying to find something that's happy, but they're just not. But I'll read one about my dad. Let's see if I can find the page. 60. Okay, so I was caring for my dad during his last years when he had Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and did basically organized all of the stuff that you have to organize when someone passes. I didn't have a lot of help from the rest of my family. This is called Invisible Ink. I did not read my dad's death certificate. Too many bureaucratic lines, fine print woven onto thick paper paid for per copy. I shoved them in a folder, forgot the moment we signed him into ash. Today, I pulled the final forms out of a leopard bag, noticed he was rendered white, like a ghost, despite a mother whose grandfather was a cacique, father more Langston than Williams, black, like ink seeping into tree pulp, mishmash of fiber, pressed carbon and the fear of squid, erased, a blank page, a deleted history, typed in foreign characters. All right, that's it, folks. I want to hear Ariel.
Awesome sauce. Thank you so much. And your poems are not sad. They are beautiful and touching and necessary and awe-inspiring and thought-provoking and all of that good stuff, okay? All of that good stuff. Thank you so much for beautiful, beautiful reading. And X, bruh, I'm about to go off with X right after this reading. Look, Lapicero is ready. I'm so ready for that. Oh my gosh. All right, let's keep it moving. See, I like to say, we're making time. We're making time right now for this poetry. So we're making time. So once we're making with time, that's it. We're the masters of our destiny. Nothing can stop, nothing can fuck with us, so to speak, right? Okay. Coming up next is Ariel Francisco. Let me tell you that, okay, when I was in graduate school doing my MFA, the poet Pat Rosal showed me some poems by this wonderful poet that Ariel has translated, Jacques Vieux-Renaud, right? And Pat Rosal says to me, yo, have you heard of this dude? And I was like, no, who is this? I start looking him up. I'm like, oh my God, this dude is a hero. Wow, right? And I'm enthralled, but as my first book is like kicking my ass, I put everything down in a way and I'm like, okay, I gotta get this first book out. And I just kind of like forgot until I read some translations by Ariel of this amazing poet. And I was like, yo, we need to publish this book. It's gotta be out into the world. So I love translators. I love translations. And I love the fact that Ariel is out here in the world translating these poets because it is so, so necessary, right? So I'm super excited. We're publishing these translations. Okay, they're called Poet of One Island, Selected Poems of Jacques Vial-Renard, right? And they're amazing, and I can't wait for you guys to sit with them. So I just had to give a little bit of that history. Ariel Francisco is the author of Under Capitalism. If your head aches, they just yank off your head, bro. Yo, not only do I love this title, but wait till you hear the other ones. And that book is coming out with Flower Song Press like any day now, right, Ariel? I'll let you talk a little bit about that, but shout out to Edward Vidaure, who's an amazing editor, an amazing poet, and an amazing person, doing just wonderful work, and not just publishing poetry, but children's books, novels, YA, you name it. I mean, Flower Song Press is doing big things. Ariel's other books are A Sinking Ship is Still a Ship, Burrow Press. All My Heroes Are Broke. I heard that. And Before Snowfall, After Rain, a poet and translator born in the boogie down Bronx to Dominican and Guatemalan parents and raised in Miami. His work has been published in the New Yorker, American Poetry Review, Academy of American Poets Poem a Day, New York City Ballet, Latino Book Review, and elsewhere. He is assistant professor of poetry at Louisiana State University. Everyone, welcome Ariel Francisco. I'll ask you to unmute. I'll remove my spotlight and I will give you the floor, sir. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Roberto. And thank you to Grisel and Darla for those wonderful poems. I'm so excited to be able to read with you all. So I'm gonna read a couple of the Jacques Vieux poems and then a couple of my own poems. I think I'll open and close with him. And that's crazy, Roberto, because I remember when I first started translating his poems, I was looking online to see if anyone else had done it. And I found Patrick Rosal's translations from I think they were from 2010 or 2011. And so I emailed him. I was trying to figure out how the rights work for translations and stuff, and asked him. And he hadn't been working on it anymore. So it seemed like nobody was. So then I started doing it when I did a second MFA in translation just to kind of be able to work on it. So I'm excited as hell that y'all are putting it out with Get Fresh, because his work is tremendous. So I'll open with one of his poems. And briefly, Jacques Vieux was born in Haiti, and he moved to the Dominican Republic when he was about 8 years old. And he was killed in the revolution of 1965. He was only 23 years old, and he left this body of work behind. And specifically during the revolution, he was killed by American soldiers. A lot of people don't know that the U.S. sent in about 45,000 troops to quell that rebellion, to bring back the democratically elected president at the time, who had been in exile. And so he writes a lot about his homeland, and when what he means is Quiscaya, which is the indigenous name for the island of Hispaniola, which is made up by the Dominican Republic and Haiti. So a lot of his work is kind of trying to reconcile the violence between, really from the Dominican Republic towards Haiti, but also caught up in the revolution as well. So I'll open with one of his poems, and then I'll read a couple of my own, and then I'll close with one of his. This first one is called I'm Trying to Tell You About My Homeland. I'm trying to tell you about my homeland, the one that begins to slip where the guasabara tree grows, the fragile peppers, the thirsty dust-covered pitchers, the strange yellowish grass, lonely spear measuring the heart of my island. I'm trying to tell you about my homeland. From here, from my Celine hair, from Santo Domingo, maybe I'll speak of both. Two sibling mounds, cardinal points of my sorrow, fallen from the wind's rose like lovers breaking their embrace. I'm trying to tell you about my homeland, of her children, her peaks and valleys, her sleepy plains, where countless rivers are born, crowds of crystals huddled in the hollows. My homeland is a plateau of betrayed green and golden maize, the cross that cross the seas to go far off, while the people of the mountains and plains grow with hunger. It's a land of many bare mountains, loud rivers of cheerful wildlife and violent flora. My homeland cracked giving birth, and her children wither and look like dying leaves, confusing themselves in the forest of thin barked trees. There, imprisoned between two clay arms, rock and stone, sleeps the city that smells of death, of sugarcane, of earthly virgin liquor, like resin of great gnarled roots. It's a city of nameless streets and ghostly alleys. Even the cracks hold life, even the sewers quietly traversed by rats and bats. It's a city full of countless children that never grow up, that never learn the colors of lanterns or dawn, with bread and without tears, of children who ripen in tombs, the damp ground adorned with sunflowers and the light of blind eyes. Here I was born, from here I left, tied to the blood, alone after years. I found the red stain inside me and then learned to read the leaves, to speak with the earth and be quiet when she reconstructs the history of the many dead that sustain her, of the blood that fed her fruits, the screams that sustain her precious mountains. So much time has passed since I left. Nothing has changed. Those same bald mountains go on, the same vegetation and sunflowers, the same dark coffee fields and starry pastures. Only hunger has grown. There's no more space in the cemeteries or in the crying eyes or in my island homeland. Only dimensions of dirt and rags, of the dead unhinged from the mud by the wind. This is my homeland, an extension of Santo Domingo crying. This is my haunt, extension of the cry echoing from the mountains, the roads, the forests, from the other side of the blood, from the port of St. Nicholas to the face of the brackish crystal and the bones of death fish piled on the beach, becoming mountains, between hungry nets and sunburned fishermen. Here, the dead turn into handsome fish, covered in algae, silent moss, cliffs of rumors protected by the night. I've been trying to tell you about my homeland, of my homelands, of my island that has long divided man, there where they came together to create a river. And then, speaking of homelands, I'll read a poem from my homeland, which is the Bronx, which I moved away from when I was a kid, but I love very much and still have a lot of family there. This poem is written after Lorca, and it's called Along the East River and in the Bronx, Young Men Were Singing. I heard them and I still hear them above the threatening shrieks of police sirens, above the honking horns of morning traffic, above the home crowd cheers of Yankee Stadium, above the school bells and laughter lighting up the afternoon, above the clamoring trudge of the one train and the two, the 456, the B and the D, above the ice cream truck's warm jingle, above the stampede of children playing in the street, above the rush of a popped fire hydrant, above the racket of eviction notices, above the whisper of moss and mold moving in, above the High Bridge and the 145th Street Bridge, above mothers calling those children to come in for dinner, to come in before it gets dark, to get your ass inside, above them calling a child that may never come home, above the creaking plunge of nightfall and darkness settling in the deepest corners, above the Goodyear blimp circling the stadium, above the seagulls circling the coastal trash. Along the East River and in the Bronx, young men are singing, and I hear them eastbound into eternity, even as morning destars the sky. Thank you. This poem was in my last book, but I slipped it into the new book because there actually aren't any rules. People tell you can't do things, but then you do them and no one says anything. This is a poem written after Yusef Kumunyaka, and it's about when I first started translating poetry. My dad is also a poet. He doesn't have a book, but he's always written poems and published in little magazines here and there. So when I began to develop an interest in translation, I thought it would be cool to translate his poems because we get along really well. And if I had any questions, I could just like text him or call him and kind of, it seemed like a good way to get into it. But because I'm very stupid, somehow I forgot that my parents divorced when I was a kid and that maybe my dad would have written poems about that, and maybe that would be really terrible for me to read and have to sit and think about. So this is called Translating My Dad's Love Poems, and it's after Yusef Kumunyaka. It must have been 98, my mom leaving for work, The first night she doesn't kiss my dad goodbye. He closes the door softly, walks slowly to his office, and takes a hammer to the keyboard of his computer as though desperately trying to build something until the letters fly through the air, struggling to form the words he cannot. I watch from my childish quiet, unnoticed, unsure of how much time passes before he labors over the scattered keys, scooping them up with small hesitation like a man collecting seashells and striving to pop them back into place, to remember where each one belongs. I am so much like my father, and so I too fear love, how I will inevitably fail it, mishandle it, let it fall from my hands, too fragile to survive intact. Years later, I think of him hunched over that keyboard, the same one he used to write the poems I'm now translating, bent over my own computer, alone in my apartment, his words my inheritance, dim foreshadowing. He writes, "Today I will not think of you. Today I will not think of you. Today I will not think of you." And this next one, in 2019, I went with my dad to the Dominican Republic for the first time since I was a teenager for a poetry festival, and it was very interesting. And my dad, he talks a lot. He's a very sociable person, and he loves to tell anecdotes and all these things. So as we were going around the city, he would tell me, like different memories. When he would see something, it would remind him of something. So this came from one of those, and it's dedicated to my grandmother, my dad's mom, who I never met. Called Learning My Grandmother Was Also a Poet. Excuse me. My dad says it slowly, as though the memory is arriving word by word in the stale autumn wind. He looks towards the radio tower, prodding the sky like an impatient child. "She used to bring me here," he says, eyes on the tower. She used to bring me here with her when she would read. She would read her poems on the radio. He says this as though it's being revealed to him, as though he's learning this for the first time, as though he could have forgotten, as though just realizing this might have affected him. Oh, how I remember my dad at his typewriter, then his word processor, then his computer. How I remember the books lining the walls, the photo of his mother on the shelf. I ask if he still has her poems, and he says no, that they were lost when his sisters cleared out the house after she died, after he moved to the US, his eyes still on the tower. I want to tell him that radio waves never disappear, never truly dissipate, not really. I want to tell him they grow infinitely smaller, infinitely more spread out, infinitely infinite, but still there, forever. I want to tell him I'm listening. Sorry if the screen is moving. My cat has decided to make an appearance, and he's nuzzling my laptop. This next poem, so this will be the last poem of mine I'll read, which is a little long, and then I'll read one more of Jacques' poems. This is pretty self-explanatory. Sorry, let me get him out of here because he wants all the attention. This is for my uncle Kiko, who spent most of his life in psychiatric hospitals with schizophrenia. This is my dad's brother. We can't bring in our phones. The armed security says it's to protect the patients from photos, that they technically can't consent, that it's a real shame we can't take pictures with our loved ones to share with our other loved ones who want to know how our loved ones are doing. He says this with one hand on his gun, eyeing us as we empty our pockets into a locker. No sharp objects, nothing that can record in any capacity for the patient's safety. My dad tells the desk we're here to see Ramon Antonio Enriquez. The first time I hear his real name, my uncle, who I call uncle and not Tio because I do not know him. Only ourselves and the food my dad bought at a Dominican spot on the way make it through the heavy metal doors that need to be buzzed open and locked loudly behind us. The visiting area looks like the break room of a large chain store, personalityless, a bland sterility, but dirty at the same time. A TV in the corner showing the Yankees lose, the orderlies gathered around the TV watching the Yankees lose. We wait and we wait. My dad says he hasn't seen his brother in a few years, says Kiko has an incredible memory. The mango starts to grow cold. Then through the doors, an old man on a walker, bent almost in half, moving in slow motion. My dad's brother looks decades older than him. The nurse guides him to our table, and the drugs in his voice ask my dad, "Who are you? Who is he?" It's hard watching my dad explain to his brother. Something is misaligned in Kiko's brain. He remembers his brother Frank, but can't reconcile that knowledge with the person sitting next to him, putting an arm around him, asking if he's eaten today. Who here asks that and actually cares about the response? My dad asks what they feed him here. Oatmeal, he says. And what else? No answer. My dad lays out the food and Kiko shovels it into his toothless mouth, asking if my dad cooked it. My dad asks Kiko what happened to his teeth, wiping his mouth and chin. Kiko answers by nodding towards the orderlies watching TV, habichuelas dripping from his trembling lips onto already stained pants. Again, he asks my dad if he cooked this. My dad looks over at the orderlies and says nothing. Kiko asks about, and my dad says they died 30 years ago. Kiko asks about, and my dad says they died 20 years ago. Kiko asks about, and my dad says he doesn't remember who that is, looks at me with raised eyebrows and says, "See, my brother has an excellent memory. He remembers more than me." Kiko doesn't smile, just keeps slurping and recollecting his checklist of the dead, unfazed by their absence, by having no landing space for his memories. My dad says Kiko used to keep a notebook of his life, of everything that ever happened to him, and memorized it, kept writing it in his head when the notebook was lost, left in the Dominican Republic on his journey to the States. "Do you remember?" Kiko stops eating and says yes, puts his hands on the table. This is the story of Ramon Antonio Enriquez, born 1951. A pause. He stares wide-eyed as though scared to say what comes next. He starts again. This is the story of Ramon Antonio Enriquez, and then nothing. And this will be the last poem. This is another Jacques Vieux poem, and this is the last poem in the manuscript, and it's quite short. And it's kind of haunting and I think prophetic, given that he was killed. He wrote a lot about in support of the revolution, and then ended up fighting in the revolution and then was killed. So this ends up being a little haunting, I think. So thank you again so much for having me, and I'm excited as hell for this book to come into the world next year. It's called Fatigued March. Fatigued March. I look for something to cling to. I touch the rock and am wounded. I see the light and am blinded. I embrace the shadows and feel that it dilutes me, that the terrible moment of becoming dust has arrived. Thank you.
Wow, just goddamn. Wonderful, wonderful poetry. Wonderful poetry, y'all. So grateful for tonight, for being in your company and listening to your words. You know, this is it. This is what we need, right? So fired up about that book, bro. You have no idea. I'm so fired up, like you just don't know. We got to get together, man. Either I got to go out to Louisiana, or we got to get together and really talk about Jacques and all of it, because it's just so much people don't know. All right, I'm going to take this opportunity to switch the view to a grid view and allow everyone to unmute themselves so they can give you guys all a big round of applause. I have been putting links in the chat, okay? So please visit the links, check out the poets, buy their books, follow them on social media, see where they're at, and, you can attend their readings and keep up with us, right? Okay, so let me switch the view to gallery, right? And then I will allow participants to unmute themselves. Go for it. You can now do it, right? Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us and for being a wonderful audience and for keeping the chat alive. A few people had to jump off. But, we understand Sunday night, right? And this will be recorded, and as soon as it's available on YouTube, I will go ahead and share it. And you can go on Facebook and watch it because it will live there as well. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Again, please follow us on social media and support your poets. All right. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yay, thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.